So we all know this movie is gonna be a huge failure. This movie costs around $250 to $300 million to make, and this movie's box office projections is not good. So do you not know Disney is remaking Snow White, and no one likes it. No one likes this movie. This is a movie. It's kind of like the Marvels. Everybody knew the Marvels was coming out, but no one wanted to see it. You have tons and tons and tons of posts about empty theaters for this movie. No one going to see this movie. Kind of like with the Marvels. It really makes me think that Disney bought the tickets for Captain Marvel 1, considering the fact that how the movie did so well, despite the fact that there were so many reports of empty theaters for that movie as well. It really makes you wonder. But the real performance of Captain Marvel as well. Did Disney really buy up all the tickets to make so the movie actually look successful? But Snow White, excuse me, is coming out this year. And of course, it's been suspect of several controversies over the past couple years. Amongst them, as Forbes previously detailed, Disney has casting Zegler and Peter Dinklage criticized the idea of using dwarf actors for the live action updates. Previously, another controversy surfaced for the Seven Dwarfs. Only one of the actors had dwarfism surfaced. In a completed film, all the dwarfs are CGI characters. Also, as Forbes reported, also we have the whole thing of Israel and Palestine. I will not talk about that. We'll avoid that whole topic. But there's so many controversies with this movie. Rachel Zegler, I think, is the person that's, kind of like so many other movies was sunk by Rachel Zegler. Shazam, Fury of the Gods. Her basically has always seen the movie as a paycheck, when almost every other person who made the movie, who was involved in the movie, said they actually liked the character and liked the series and wanted to portray the character as, they did in the comics. And Rachel Zegler basically acted like a brat and said, "Oh, I'm only doing this movie for the paycheck." And guess what? Shazam, Fury of the Gods flopped, and guess what? Even though I liked the movie, I think it deserved to flop because Rachel Zegler lost money. Because Rachel Zegler is a piece of crap. But, but Snow White is expected to do in the 50 millions. They're like, but this isn't a bad opening. Okay, it's Elemental opened to like 25 million. Whatever, this is a movie based off like Disney's one of Disney's greatest movies. I'm not really a big fan of the original Snow White because I haven't watched it too many times. But Snow White is kind of like the eternal classic. It has been like that for like 100 years. Okay. Disney has basically, this is like the one movie Disney had to get right. Okay. Like, yes, they did the Lion King, they did the, Aladdin remake, and of course, tons of people went to go see those movies because of nostalgia. But cracks starting to show in the Disney remakes of movies like Mulan not doing too well on Disney Plus, and of course movies like Little Mermaid actually losing money for Disney. And actually the budget for the Little Mermaid was originally like $200 million, but they adjusted it up to $250 million after the actual report came out about the budget. But the fact that Snow White, they said that the movie cost around $250 million, basically, actually $230 million before the marketing spend. Okay, this movie is just as expensive as the Marvels. It's projected to do the same as the Marvels. Okay, that means Snow White is going to be one of the biggest box office failures of all time. Okay, we can look at the biggest box office flops of all time, and the Marvels is number one. I think number two is John Carter. Number three is like some alien movie. Number four is Joker 2. Number 5 is, I think, another recent Disney movie as well. And Disney is really hogging the biggest box office failures of all time, with the exception of Joker 2. Okay? And we have Joker, we have Strange World, Lone Ranger. A lot of more recent Disney movies actually are on this list. Very higher than most movies usually are. You have lists on the list. And I think when it comes to Snow White, it's going to be on par with the Marvels and Joker Folly Dukes as well. It's going to be one of the biggest failures of all time. And, it will be, and that means, when it comes to John Carter, almost every biggest failure of all time were released in the 2020s. which is just wild to say that. Well, if we said that around 2020, no one would have thought a movie, and we're not counting pandemic movies like Tony Red, but as well, but we're not talking about like pandemic releases or day-to-day streaming movies. Who would have told you that in 2020, before of course COVID, that the biggest box office failures of all time would come from the 2020s? Okay, but it seems it's even more likely so. Okay, and Snow White is gonna be another one of these movies that's gonna be a massive, massive failure. And the box office projections are going down the downside as it's time to realize that no one is watching this movie. You have tons and tons of reports of no matter where you go, there are empty theaters for this movie. No one is turning out to go see this movie. No one is turning out to go watch this, okay? And it's really Rachel Zegler's fault that this movie is not doing too well. She trashed the original Snow White, calling it sexist because it wasn't woke, even though it was made in the 1930s. Calling the original story and again, it really shows that Rachel Zegler should have no place in any sort of fandom whatsoever. Because Rachel Zegler constantly disrespects the original property and IP that franchise is. She disrespected the DC universe, and now she's disrespecting the Snow White movie. And she wonders why no one goes to see anything with her in it. Rachel Zegler continues to lose money for Disney and Hollywood as a whole. And this is a huge, huge failure on Disney's part. A huge flop. Like, what has Rachel Zegler accomplished in her box office career? Nothing. She has accomplished nothing in her box office career. And that is about Snow White, the biggest failure of 2025. Goodbye.